Hello everyone, and welcome to this licensing subcommittee meeting. So running through the agenda here, I've got two papers in front of me, so apologies if I'm trying to overlap on this. But we'll try and run through the items as in order. So number one, apologies for absence. Are there any? We're all present and correct. Excellent. Second is the appointment of a chair for this meeting. So I'll have to ask. You nominating myself, are you?
Nominate you, Councillor Ashmore.
Yeah, I'll second that.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so thirdly, any declarations of members' interests? And
None.
Nope, and that's a no for me as well. So next up, if we've introduced the members. If we introduce ourselves, if we go round to my left there, go around in a circle just so we all know who's who. I'm Dave Ashmore. I'll be chairing this meeting.
Councillor Scott Pater Harris. I am Hillsey Ward Councillor.
Councillor Charlotte Gerardo, I'm just observing as part of my training.
Jane Didino, Local Democracy Officer.
Derek Stone, Principal Licensing Officer.
Tracy Blair, Legal Advisor.
Yep, Councillor Jason Fazackley, Nelson Ward, Member Licensing Committee, and I think, Chair, that's the first time I've heard Councillor Scott Pater Harris being referred to as being on the left, but there you are, okay.
Although on the screen he's on the right, so that's okay. Right, what else is down there? Any other persons? There is no other persons here. Number 4, it's got just Licensing Act, so I think this is, it goes into item 5 where the licensing manager outlined the application. So if I just hand it over to yourself. Thank you.
Good afternoon, members. We're here this afternoon to consider a premises licence application for Notius Greek Bar and Cafe, situated at 92 Osborne Road, Southsea. The applicant has been submitted by Mr. Hakim Arabutu, who is here today to address you. The application was first received on the 12th of May 2021, and all responsible authorities were sent the application. Licensing services were notified by Planning Department that there was a condition on the premises limiting its hours of operation, and that the premises shall remain closed between 22:30 and 0900 hours Sunday to Thursday, and 2300 to 0900 hours on Friday and Saturday. The applicant was advised regarding this restriction, and as a result he altered the hours to meet the planning restriction on the premises. Accordingly, the hours shown in my report detail the amended application. Unfortunately, the applicant failed to advertise his application correctly in the newspaper, which led to an extension for representations, which took the final date to the 14th of July. You will see that the applicant has detailed in the operating schedule the steps intended to support and promote the licensing objectives. These can be found in the redacted application form together with an agreed operating schedule attached at Appendix A, and there's a plan of the premises attached at Appendix B. The provisions relating to the grant of a premises licence are contained within Part 3 of the Licensing Act of 2003 and associated statutory regulations. Public notice was given by way of press notice, a premises notice, and local ward councillors were notified of the application. There are no grounds, therefore, for the committee to reject the application for non-compliance with the prescribed advertising requirements. Members, just for information, the premises was previously operated as a jeweller shop owned by the applicant. Relevant representations have been received from 3 local residents, Mr. Kitchen, who's here today, who will address you, and Mr. McLean and Mr. Yeshi. Originally, Mr. Yeshi's representations were received out of time, but due to the non-compliance and the extended representation date, that representation became valid. The residents have raised concerns about noise this business would generate, the potential for crime and disorder, and the impact upon residents living above, one being a single parent with a young child, and all these representations you have at Appendix C. Members, when determining the application, the committee must have regard to the promotion of the licensing objectives, which, as you know, are the prevention of crime and disorder, public safety, prevention of public nuisance and the protection of children from harm. Also the Licensing Act of 2003, the adopted statement of licensing policy, judgments of the High Court which your legal advisor can give you guidance on should that become necessary, the current statutory guidance issued by the Home Secretary in accordance with section 182 of the Act, the representations including supporting information presented by all the parties and the human rights of all the parties concerned to ensure both a fair and balanced hearing. The Statement of Licensing Policy lays down a general approach to the determination of licensing applications, and any such application will be considered on its individual merits. Equally, any person permitted by the Act to make relevant representations to the committee will have those representations considered on their individual merit. The updated statutory guidance issued by the Home Secretary in accordance with section 182 of the Act refers to the consideration of applications for the grant of premises licences. As a matter of practice, the licensing authority should seek to focus the hearing on the steps considered appropriate to promote the particular licensing objective or objectives that are given rise to the specific representations and avoid straying into undisputed areas. Licensing authorities are best placed to determine what actions are appropriate for the promotion of the licensing objectives. All licensing determinations should be considered on a case-by-case basis. They should take into account any representations or objections that have been received from responsible authorities or other persons and representations made by the applicant or premises user as the case may be. The authority's determination should be evidence-based, justified as being appropriate for the promotion of the licensing objectives and proportionate to what is intended to achieve. The licensing authority may not impose conditions unless its discretion has been exercised following receipt of relevant representations and it is satisfied, as a result of the hearing, that it is appropriate to impose conditions to promote one or more of the four licensing objectives. It is possible, members, that in some cases no additional conditions will be appropriate to promote these objectives. Members, finally, I'll just remind you of the review provisions under Chapter 11. The proceedings set out in the 2003 Act for reviewing premises licences represent a key protection for the community where problems associated with licensing objectives occur after the grant of a premises licence. At any stage following the grant of a premises licence, a responsible authority or any other person may ask the licensing authority to review the licence because of a matter arising at the premises in connection with any of the four licensing objectives. I don't think I need to say any more at this stage, members, but obviously I'm here throughout the proceedings should you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you for that. So I've got that members may ask any questions. Do you have any? You do. Go ahead.
I'm sure you're not surprised. Just a quick one, Derek. Do we have any representations from the police? Because I see in the representations part of the report they haven't put anything down.
No, the only representations you have are the ones before you, nothing from the police.
Thank you.
Councillor Fazackley.
Sorry. Right, thank you. Yes, several. First of all, in regards to the premises itself, it's detailed that it's been previously operating as a jeweller's. Just to know how long, and previously this particular premises, has it ever been a food or licensed venue before?
I think the applicant is probably better to answer that, but as far as I'm aware, it was a jeweller's up until probably 12 months ago, 6 months ago, and it's been closed since then.
Just before the COVID. So just before the COVID, it closed.
So how long was it actually operating as a jeweller's for?
It was about 4 years.
40 or 4?
4
4 years, okay. And looking at the plans that you've got here, oh sorry, this is primarily still to our licensing officer, but maybe it's better to ask you. Any idea of the number of employees and customer numbers you're expecting? I know you've got 2 floors here, but there's no detail unless I've missed it in regards to tables, how many customers you expect to fill, what your maximum capacity is.
As well, waiter to get this all the meals upstairs and downstairs, and the chair and tables, it's not many, it's all around about 20 people 20 customers at a time.
No, so your maximum capacity is 20 customers at one particular sitting?
Yeah, 20, 25 max, yeah, 25.
And finally, can you just confirm, is there an outside smoking area? I don't think there is. I am
No.
looking at the... So it should be on-street smoking, if people wish to smoke, okay?
Yeah, but it's not going to be a long meal. It's going to be like a Cairo meal, which is like the chicken and chips or the pork and chips. It's going to be. So it's going to be like a kind of fast food with a quick drink.
Okay, and you have another one. Councillor Baker.
I think it's just more of a point of clarification. I think we're staring into planning and fire regulation ground, and I think the fire officer has been sent the application and made no representations, and again, it's separate legislation, so I think we need to be careful and stick to the licence and objectives on this.
Fair point. Okay, if there's no questions from members, I ask the applicant if you have any questions for Mr Stone there. Any questions for... Okay.
One point specifically to ask the licensing officer. On the top of page 31, there's an email shown from Deborah Robson as being sent at 11 minutes past 8 on the 3rd of June, but there's no content showing. There's just a heading. What was that actual email about?
Who's it sent to? Can you tell me? Sorry.
Yes, if you look at page 31, I assume you... Say again? Oh, was that it? Was it? Oh, okay.
It's probably to me, I think.
Okay.
Yes, that's just sent to me, and I've printed it off.
We're all good. And any other persons to ask questions? So I have to go, Ms Kitchen, have you got any questions for the licence manager there? Thank you. Right. I now come to the applicant who can present their case to us. Basically tell us what you're doing, what you feel.
Yes, sure, thank you.
Just tell us a bit more about the application. Thank you.
Yeah, I've got personal license since May 2015, and I look after other businesses in Marmion Road and the Clarendon Road, the Sunday Post. I've got the licensing in my name, the premises license, and Betiliano as well, which has been opened on recently, and the Catalan Barcelona Tapas Bar in Marmion Road has been opened since 2 years ago, and it's been very well, and it's been in the news lately, and we've never had any issue in regarding the licensing or complaints or any effects or any complaint from the children or any other families in regards the licensing at all for the last 5 years, especially the Sunday Post. And also we run Marmion number 37 or Nochios Bar and Restaurant, which is a restaurant. It's a similar style to the Nochios Bar and Cafe, which is in 92 Osborne Road. That's where we are at the moment applying for. So it's just we want to make a different style. That's why we call it Nochios Greek Bar and Cafe rather than just bar and restaurant. Otherwise you get people confused between Marmion Road 37, it's the same name, and we are on the same company, but it's a different trade name. So the customer, when they look at on the online or social media, they know where we are, which side of the road, either Marmion Road or Nochios or Osborne Road. And it's just a modern names given it, like rather than call it Nochios Cafe Bar. It's a new modern name, call it Greek Bar and Cafe. And the bar is not going to be like a normal bar, because we're not going to have loads of drinks variety. It's going to be 2 or 3 types of beer, which is there are Greek beer and Turkish beer, Efes, but not everybody's cup of tea for this beer. And the wine as well is going to be a Greek wine and some Middle East wine. Same again, it goes okay with the food, with the Cairo and other typical menus for this style of Greek food. So that's why we try to call it a Greek bar and cafe. So it's not a style of the bar. It's not like in Barmester Road at all. And regarding the music and the noise and things like that, we are 4 doors away from Kingsley, and the zone, I've been told, is all licensing restaurants and bars, all that on Osborne Road can be applied. That's why we have applied for this matter of licensing. We'd like to achieve it, and without any failing, without any objection. The main objective, of course, we have, as I put it in my form, prevention of crime disorder and public safety and prevention of public nuisance and protection of children from the harm. That's our main objective for the licensing, and it's going to be perfect for lots of families, and not everybody's cup of tea is going to be, if you know what I mean. Yeah. So, but the main things, as I said, maybe I mentioned to Derek before, we never had any complaint at all for the last 5 years, 6 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Before I come to any members' questions there, I just got one of my own, because one of the representations is that there's a flat directly above, and obviously you said there's going to be music playing, and they're worried about the noise on that. Have you got any way of kind of mitigating that, or taking that into consideration so that it's not going to affect them in a negative way?
No, it's not going to be a nightclub. The music is going to be sort of like a medium. It's not going to be high. It's not going to affect. There's a noise insulation, and the building is full concrete. We don't hear much from there, but when I used to be there in Grand Jewelers, I used to open the back door. I used to hear the music from the drift bar, the smoke from their kitchen. So the noise is everywhere, to be honest with you. And even the taxi rank in front of us, or the food festivals with the music is going to be quite loud, yeah.
Oh, thanks for that. If I just come to members, Chris, I'll do Jason this time. Councillor Zackley, do you have any questions?
But I'd rather you go to Councillor Peter Harris, because I'm sure he's got questions. I'm still scribbling some in relation to that late email I got.
Councillor Harris.
I have quite minimal questions, actually. It's more so, I've seen obviously on Appendix A, which is covering obviously the CCTV system and the conditions of the licence, and it mentions about no beers and ciders over 6.5 unless sold in pack of 4. I mean, I can imagine that you won't be supplying alcohol of that nature of over 6.5%.
Of course, yeah, no, not at all.
Thank you. Yeah, that's all for me at the moment.
Full experience, obviously. Thank you.
Jason?
Oh gosh, I scribbled some off. Okay, I want to divert very quickly back to the licensing officer in regards to a comment or a point that was made by the applicant. During the course of his presentation there, he mentioned that he runs a number of venues throughout the city, and said there were no problems any of those premises. Can you just confirm that, as far as we're aware as a licensing authority, there have been no complaints at any of the venues that the applicant's involved with?
I can't confirm 100% that we haven't had a complaint from the premises, but it's certainly not on our radar as a cause for concern, if that helps.
Okay. And you, sir, I mean, you've detailed to us your experience in running those premises, and you clearly wish us to recognise you as a responsible individual. Looking at the objections that we've received, if I can refer to the email that I've got here from, what's the date of it? Oh, I've just been handed. There doesn't appear to be a date on it. Well, either way, sorry, it's one I've just been handed. There doesn't seem to be any dates on it, but there's a mention that it's from the Yeshis. It notes that Mr. Kitchen, who's one of the objectors here, has reported you twice in respect of issues arising at that premises. One was using the rubbish extractor, I believe, which was tied in with residents' their own chute, and also undertaking work prior to any permission. Can you just give us your response to that, please?
It's all been regulated and been signed off by building regs, and these old pipes or whatever, old chimney, never been used for the last 10 years, and it's all been disconnected. No one used it ever since I was there, since 2014. And it's all been signed up by the building regs. You can check it with the Portsmouth City Council and the planning.
So are you saying, sir, that's not correct?
No.
Right, okay, on that basis, whether I can pass over to licensing again or to our legal advisor, in the representations that we've been given, which the applicant obviously has just disputed, can anyone cast any light as to whether that is correct or incorrect? I.e., was report made twice about the applicant, and what's detailed there, is that correct if we know that?
Anything to do with planning wouldn't come to licensing. It would have gone to planning.
I'm asking simply as the grounds that obviously we're looking at whether an individual is responsible, and these points have been raised, so okay, fair enough. If we can't answer it here, then we can't. Going back to you, sir, my colleague here has just made some reference to what steps you're taking to address any potential noise problems. I didn't really glean from what you said what specifically you've done. You mentioned there's noise everywhere else, but we're looking at your particular application, so I'd like to know what you've specifically done within your premises to limit any noise. You said it's medium. Well, medium could be anything as far as I'm concerned.
No, moderated is going to be moderated. It's, obviously, it's not going to be high volume because the customers, they want to eat and relax. So you've got to hear some kind of a music. But it's not going to be loud like you are entering a bar or a nightclub.
Okay, but have you...
It's different style of music, as well,
Okay, but have you specifically taken any noise-limiting measures? What installation do you have?
I think the installation and the measurement of that is all with the Portsmouth City Council. Otherwise, they wouldn't grant the a restaurant use. It's all been done, sorted by the Portsmouth City Council.
Right, moving on. Where am I next?
Councillor Zaki, can I just jump in on the point you just made? Is that okay? You don't mind?
Well, it depends what it is, but presumably
It's
not.
just about the noise. I just want to go on the noise. You said it's going to be moderated, but you haven't actually described how it's going to be moderated. I think that's the question. I think Jason, Councillor Zaki is actually asking. I mean, we have no demonstration in what you're going to be doing.
How am I supposed to demonstrate it, sir? It's just a kind of, you're going to the restaurant or you're going to the nightclub. How far, how loud the music you can hear in the restaurant? Less noise and it's just a small kind of a music. You'll hear the people talking more than the music sometimes.
I get
the clubs is obviously high music is going to be, but we are not high music at all.
I get the description of what you're saying.
Yeah.
But you're describing an event, but you're not actually telling me how you're going to manage it. So I don't feel that you're answering the question that I'm trying to put down to you. I just want to know, if there's a loud noise and there's loads of problems, how are you going to deal with it? That's the question I'm basically asking.
Yeah, of course, we got to get the music down, obviously. If somebody put it by arrow, loud, and obviously we got to turn it down.
But you've made no changes materially to the building to ensure that noise control is kept to a minimum?
There is noise.
You have made some changes to the building.
Sorry?
I'm just saying, have you made any changes to the building to ensure that...
The insulation, there is insulation, there's a certificate about the insulations. All that is being used, being done through applying through the planning,
The change of use, yeah?
change of use.
Okay, well, I don't want to go steering to planning.
We've done it in
That's all I need to
Marmion
know.
Road, I've done it in the Petiliano, and I've done in the 92 Osborne Road as well. It's all been done.
Okay, that's fine. I'm asking the question because
Yeah,
that's
sorry.
what I'm trying to get to,
Yeah.
the fact that what have you done to moderate
Yes,
the
yes.
noise? So the fact that you just described that you have made some installation changes to the
Definitely.
building to moderate the noise, that just goes against what is put in the papers, so we can have some idea of what, I think what Councillor Fazackley was trying to get to. Sorry, Jason, if I can just assist on that. I think that's what you were trying to get at. Over to you again.
Thank you.
I mean, the reason I raise this, sir, is the fact that obviously the objectors, a number of them have raised concerns for noise. You've made reference to nightclubs. I don't know many people that tend to live above a nightclub, so you can appreciate their concern that where they're living somewhere that was a jeweller's, they're now faced with a potential premises where there will be noise of a level they can't ascertain as yet. So you've mentioned medium, so there's no point hammering this to death, but I think what myself and my colleague are trying to establish is what you've specifically done. I'm not sure any particularly clear at the end of it, but I think it was worth raising the question. If I move on, bear with me, I catch up to where I was before. Going back to the staff again, if I got it correctly, you envisaged about 6 staff being there during one shift, is that right? Variety of
yes.
waiters and... Yes, okay. And CCTV, again, a concern that's been raised is people smoking outside the premises. I take it your CCTV will cover the outside of the premises and that particular...
Yes, at the front,
Okay.
yes, it does.
Okay. Are you likely to have any door staff at all?
Sorry?
Will you have any door staff? Anyone specifically acting as door staff? Is that one of your
No.
intentions to do? No door staff, okay. And what training will your your staff be given? Again, people have raised a belief there may be an increase in drunken behaviour and drunken fighting. Obviously, I would expect you to be aware that you wouldn't serve customers that were already drunk. But what staff training will be given in regards to the Licensing Act and obviously the issue of drunken customers and such like?
Yeah, obviously it's going to be full trains regarding the drunken people or ID of age of 25, over 25, over 18. All that is going to be trained by the staff, and over the limit you can tell who is drunk, who is not drunk, not to serve at all.
Are you going to be training them, or are you going to be bringing somebody in to train them?
Of course, I will train them like the other places I've been training the other staffs, and they keep records of unserved person, of some people they don't get served because they are drunk, so it get recorded, and records of others' incidents if anything happens. And we get always, there's a book to be recorded.
And in your application, I'll turn to the page. On page 18, under the prevention of public nuisance, you've listed 2 points: noise reduction measures and dispersal policies. I think we sought to clarify the issue of noise reduction. In regard to dispersal policies, can you throw a bit more light onto that? What do you envisage, or what do you propose to do under your heading of dispersal policies?
Yes, sorry.
It's page 18.
18, yeah. Sorry. Yes, yeah. Yeah, noise reduction measures, obviously dispersal policies, as in regarding the noise, the fights, arguments, things like that. Obviously, it's going to be quite noisy if it's happening outside or inside the premises.
It's going to be quite noisy. I thought you said it would be moderated, the noise.
No, if, that's what I'm saying, if. What you're saying about the fighting, if there's an argument, things like that, obviously, it's going to be less noise. We try to control it as much as we can. That's why we're putting these to get reduction of the noise. So the customers is going to be, it's not like, we do select it of quite a lot of customers. It's in my experience, from the Sunday Post, we are in Clarendon Road, but we don't get a group of 5 men or 6 men all together in the same time. We get like 3 people, 2 people, and even the ladies, we get like maximum 4 to get in. So this is to get the noise reduction.
Yes, there's noise reduction as a heading. There's also dispersal policies.
Yeah.
And what I'm trying to ascertain from you is, and obviously you've experienced in various other premises, what are your dispersal policies? What do? You've got no door staff, so presumably if there's any issues, it will fall on the staff that are working. What do you do? Have you had issues in any of your other premises where you've had to
No.
have a policy in place to try and deal with the potential? We're not saying this is going to happen at your premises, but there is a potential. So as part of this, you need to have some kind of idea what you're going to do. So I just wanted a bit more sort of flesh onto your 2 words, dispersal policies.
Dispersal, I never had anybody outside the door or a doorman, nothing, in my experience.
No, okay.
Yeah.
So what will the staff be doing?
The staff is going to be inside, working for the customers, serving the food and drinks.
I appreciate that, but I appreciate you understand what dispersal means. If you have a problem, as has come in some of the deputations, that they're concerned there'll be people gathered outside the premises. Now, whether this will happen or not, in a way is irrelevant. We need to look at what you're going to do. So
Yeah.
I'm just trying to find out what you would do if the staff are going to be inside the premises.
If there
does
is
that mean you'll just leave it?
I'm sorry, sir, if there is an event happening like food festivals or bank holiday events, summer bank holiday, then we should get a doorman, definitely. Extra staff to get protected, to get the noise, to get everything in control. Or not fill up the whole premises with lots of customers.
Okay.
Of course, we've got to control of the customers, so we will get a doorman definitely if there is any trouble or any big event happening in Portsmouth.
Okay. To be fair, I don't think you answered my question, because of that, if you're looking at a specific event, that's one thing, but I'm looking at day-to-day running of your business.
But we're not running the business yet, sir.
Well, no, clearly you're not, but should you be, and we need to see whether we can approve this or not, what measures you got in place once that business is up and running. So, anyway, okay.
Could I just suggest we rephrase the question, perhaps, I don't know if it will help, by simply saying, what action are you going to be taking if people leave your restaurant or cafe and just stand around outside, congregating
obviously.
there, perhaps?
I kind of thought I'd ask that.
We've got to
but,
put a notice, maybe to say, please respect the neighbors, please live quietly, and remind them about the neighborhood, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, it's, like a lot of premises have signs, don't they? So
That's
please
right,
leave, this is
exactly,
a
yeah.
residential place, please respect the neighbours, leave quietly.
We've got that in Pitiliano, in
Yeah.
number 29 Marmion Road. We've got a sign, please leave it quietly, because of the neighbors' flats above us.
Yeah,
So
and-
there's about 8 flats.
And please don't congregate
right,
outside.
exactly.
For long, okay, so, yeah.
But
okay.
it's just across the road, it's a taxi rank anyway, so lots of people, they're going to be the other side
To
more
wait for
than
the
this
taxi,
side.
Fair enough. Well, thank you. Any other questions from the members? Nope. Okay, and it says other persons. So I'll ask if Mr. Kitchen would like to ask any questions of the applicant there, please.
Yeah, I've quite a bit here. First of all, Mr. Alberto keeps on referring to the Sunday Post, which is down Clarendon Road. As far as I'm aware, and according to your records, you rejected this licensing. He then opened regardless of your rejection, and there's enforcement on the place. That's according to your licensing information on your website. So him keeping referring to it, I'm a bit confused about all of that.
If I refer to, licensing there, who might know more about that?
Yeah, the Sunday Post does have a premises licence. There was an issue in relation to planning, and we've got to be careful we don't stray into this planning. There was a covenant in relation to those premises which didn't permit the premises to run during certain times. And the Sunday Post, in effect, was changed, they altered the use of the premises to turn it into a bar without planning permission or without referring it to licensing. So when we became aware of that, we took some steps to say, look, you can't do this, but they do hold a license for those premises, but there was issues in relation to planning, and I believe there was some enforcement on that, or advice.
Okay, thank you. Scott, you were going to say something?
I think it was an application for a minor variation, wasn't it?
Well, there was initially there was no minor variation; it was just done, and that's when we investigated it, and they had to put in a minor variation and reverse some of the alterations that they made.
So the licensing activity was fine, the planning was what was the issue?
Yeah, and that's the problem. Mr. Kitchen is very aware of this. Licensing and planning are two different disciplines, as you know, and it is technically possible to have a license granted for a premises where they would never get planning permission to actually run it as a bar. But that's the quirk of the legislation.
Of the regulations, yeah.
Just while we're on this point, I just literally looked at it. It's from 2017. It is the change of the bar area from the front of the premises to the back right-hand side, which was what the rejection was. So it's in terms of a licensing point. Actually, I think the licensing objectives will probably not be in play of what we're discussing now. So the policy is not as engaged. If you want to just clarify that, Tracy.
Sorry, I think it's really important that you firstly remember that you have to look at each case on each application on its own facts, but also I think it's also important, as Derek and Councillor Peter Harris has highlighted, that this licensing committee is not concerned with planning breaches or potential planning breaches. Your concern is maintaining and promoting the licensing objectives in the grant of this licence, and I think it's really important that you remember that and you focus on that. Planning authority had the opportunity to make representations in relation to licensable objectives. They haven't done so in this case. If there are breaches in relation to planning, that's an entirely separate matter that the planning authority will look at and deal with.
Absolutely, thanks for that clarification. Obviously, people will see the premises or the application and naturally combine the two. That's only natural for people. If I was asked, Mr. Kitchen, have you got any more questions for the applicant before we get to your main objections or concerns?
No, I'll raise it when I'm saying what I have to say.
Well, if there's no questions, then it comes to if I ask you to make your deputation or concerns public. Thank you.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to thank you for letting me the opportunity to address it today. I've owned flats 94 and 100, which are directly above 92 Osborne Road for a number of years. These premises used to be the old Kodak camera shop. Then the Arabetus bought it. At the beginning it was Sloan Jewelry, then they changed the name to Granda Jewelry. 3 years ago they gained conditional planning to operate a Class A3 cafe restaurant. They're now trying to get licensing to operate a bar. Again, as you said about planning, it doesn't have the planning, but that's not for you to the concern for this committee, but it does not have the right planning. It has a planning for an A3, not an A4 or sui generis. The residence entrance to the building is adjacent to the entrance to number 92, which will mean that anybody coming in, out the building will have to pass drinkers standing outside smoking, unruly behavior by drunken people. This will also affect people trying to use the cash machine from NatWest just next to it, or people in the bus stop, because that will become the winter smoking place for everybody to stand and smoke. Mr. Arabetu failed to provide in his application the full information required, starting off with the displaying of the wrong information in the public notice display in his shop window. Yes, it was amended after, but as the gentleman said, he has 3 restaurants in Marmion Road. He opened the Sunday Post next door. When the Sunday Post, one of the rejections that was presented to yourself was the fact that it kept the shutters down, so nobody can see the application. I do not believe personally that that was just an honest mistake putting the wrong hours. The man, as he said, he has enough experience to know what he's doing. The 4 main objectives of the licensings are the prevention of crime and disorder, the public safety, prevention, public nuisance, and the protection of children from harm. In his application, under the heading Prevention of Crime and Disorder, Mr. Arabetu entered CCTV and staff supervisor. Some of what I said you already touched about, but CCTV does not prevent crime or disorder. At best, it may record any crime if it actually is operated and maintained correctly and positioned towards where crime is happening. What does the staff supervisor is supposed to do? How is the staff supervisor preventing crime or disorder? You asked about it as well. He's not going to have door staff. He's not sure what the supervisor is doing. He's saying he's training customers, but as soon as it happens outside his door, he seems that he's going to put a note just being polite to the neighbors. So I'm a bit concerned, we have concerns regarding that. Under the heading Public Safety, Mr. Arabetu has entered external lighting and CCTV. Again, as I mentioned before regarding CCTV, it will help if it's actually recording anything. External lighting, so is he going to light up Osborne Road? What's the lighting going to do? Is he lighting our building entrance? Is he lighting the cash machine, the bus stop? I'm not sure where safety and the lighting is happening. Now, Mr. Arabetu has kindly produced this map for you all have. However, under your 2005 regulation, it is also required in the map to show the location and type of fire and safety equipment. It is also required to show the kitchen. And as he said, he's going to have a chef and he's going to cook. Well, there is no kitchen in this place. Now, taking into account that both Building Control and Hampshire Fire Safety have put an enforcement notice currently on the premises, he is not allowed to operate as a restaurant because he's decided to connect his kitchen, commercial kitchen extractor, to the rubbish chute, which then made the fire escape for the building a fire trap, putting in danger residents above and any potential clientele he might have had. I fail to understand or gain his safety concern very much. Also, there is no plan of a kitchen. He's not allowed to use the kitchen because he can't extract. So if he is going to cook, as he said, he's going to have chicken and chips and pork and chips. Where exactly is that going to be extracted? What is he going to do to mitigate the noise from the extractor? What is he going to do to mitigate any smell that will cause nuisance to the residents living above? Under his heading of prevention of public nuisance, Mr. Arabetu have entered noise reduction measures and dispersal policies. So again, we tried to ascertain that, but as you've seen, we did not get very far. But what exactly are the measures taken for noise reduction? Taking into account that their bedrooms directly above his second floor of his premises, and the fact that all the work carried out to convert the jewelry shop into a restaurant was done without informing building control, because I had to inform building control on 2 occasions. There was no building regs. Regardless of what he said, they had to do a retrospective one. Also, the fact that it has to have enforcement notice placed on the place by building control and Hampshire Fire and Rescue and the fact that everything, well, the contractor he used, because the building is managed, is owned by the freehold, is Rosebery Development. It is managed under Nesbitt & Co. Mr. Nesbitt went to find out what is happening. The contractor that Mr. Arabetto was employing provided false business name, false emails, false phone. So basically it's cowboys they've been using. Now, regarding the noise reduction, back to that, he's now seeking to be playing recorded music, as he said, under the bedrooms of the residents living above. He's saying moderate. I don't know what moderate is in decibels. He cannot explain to us what decibels he's going to play. He cannot tell us what kind of noise reductions were made. I'm sure even if somebody is going to drill into the building, they ain't going to find anything. He's also trying to find to gain license to sell alcohol, which again, that is going to carry further issues with nuisance from drunken people. When he was granted the conditional A3 permit, main objections was the noise that the place will cause and the nuisance from smells or from cooking. I don't believe anybody thinks that operating a drinking establishment rather than a cafe/restaurant that he applied for in the beginning is somehow going to create less noise or less nuisance. With people drinking, going in, going out, standing outside, chatting, straight under the doors, having it till 12 o'clock at night with music and alcohol. 92 Osborne Road has always operated as a shop within the 9 to 5 trading hours. Mr. Arabetto's lease also states that the premises can also only operate as a shop or financial services. That's again not for this committee or not for planning, that's between him and the freehold, but he's in breach of his lease. Mr. Arabetto's lack of care for the people living around him and living in the premises above is apparent by his action, whether it's to carry out all the building work in the building without notifying building control, whether it's connecting commercial kitchen extractor to rubbish chute, thereby putting lives at risk, deliberately posting the wrong hours on the public notice, or the lack of care in achieving any of the objections required by this committee. This premises should not be granted a license as it's not suitable. It will cause ongoing nuisance to the residents of the building, the users of the bus stop, cash machine, people walking by. I'd like to thank you for letting me speak. Thank you.
Oh, thank you for that representation there. I'll tell you what, it's supposed to be, is it all right? I've just got to ask if they have any questions and then I'll come to you too. Is that, if that's all right, just to keep to the running order. Have you got any questions for Ms. Kitchen? Thank you.
Not so much a question, it's more just clarifications on the deputation. Hopefully Tracy can help me out. Obviously, I know you mentioned about extractor fans, and I believe that's a planning issue. I think when you're talking about the fire, that's something for the fire officer. We've seen the fire officer hasn't actually made any representation today. And you also mentioned, obviously, about the lease as well, which obviously is not something for this committee. So I just think we should be mindful about those items when it comes to regard to engaging policy. Do you want to just clarify on those points that I've made, Tracy, are correct?
I certainly can. I can say that they are correct. Same for, we haven't had any representations from Environmental Health either, who are able to make representations. And I would also add that if there are issues that you are worried about in relation to noise, then certainly Environmental Health have considerable statutory powers to deal with those. But for today's purposes, that's not something that the committee need to be concerned about in that respect.
I mean, you stated that the kitchen cannot be used at the moment because basically the fire won't allow it. I don't have any evidence of that in these papers because obviously it's not for this committee, or nor would it be. It'd be something an issue, I think, for planning to look at. So on that basis, we cannot really push anything on those bases. Did you understand the point that I'm trying to make?
No, I fully understand the point. The gentleman said he's going to cook, and I'm saying, A, he was supposed to show a kitchen. There is no kitchen, and even if there is a kitchen, he cannot use the kitchen.
Excuse me. We have a committee for a reason. Obviously, when Chair asks you to speak, I think that's probably the time to do it. Okay. I know, I sort of apologies, but I mean, we have a structure, and if we don't do it properly, there'll be all sorts of accusations. So, no, I appreciate where you're coming from regarding, and I think you made the point on noise about the moderation. I still find the explanation that I've been given, I'm not sure about. So, thanks for your deputation, I appreciate it. Just to clarify, whereabouts do you actually live in adjacent to the property? Just so I can have it in my mind, because I know where the property is. Are you right above?
No, nowhere near. I rent the two properties.
You rent the two properties,
Yes,
okay.
I'm the landlord.
So your tenants are
Yes,
the
those
issues?
are my tenants.
And they're right above both, okay. Is there going to be a problem for access to the back?
Yes, because usually they either came from the back, that was when it was a jewelry shop and nobody used it, or came from the front. But now if he's going to run a kitchen from there and have kitchen staff standing there and cooking, they're only going to go through the front where all his drunk clientele going to stand.
So if I'm correct in my head, you've got the premises,
Yep.
the bank on the corner, and then as you go through the alleyway, that is where the back of the premises are.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've got the car park around the back there.
Yeah.
How many other premises that have affected the properties that your tenants live in around there? Because there are several other premises that have licenses in the area that back onto that area.
No,
So-
but not on the same entrance.
Not on the same entrance, but what I'm saying is for noise,
Yeah.
there are several other premises already in the area.
Yes, they are.
Is that causing any issue with your tenants currently?
Not that I'm aware of, but they don't have music playing underneath them till 12 o'clock at night.
I know,
But
but
taking into account that it was always a jewelry shop and it used to close at 5 o'clock in the afternoon.
I mean, the material point I'm trying to make is that there are other premises that are open till much later,
Yeah.
much larger,
Yeah.
and are within a close vicinity, and you haven't had any complaints from your tenants so far. I mean, I'm just trying to build a picture.
No.
of what
I'm
is
aware
going
these
on.
are the premises and they are all backing on that, but for me,
Okay.
it's more to do with the fact that he's now wanting to play music, as he said, moderate or whatever it is, underneath the bedroom.
Okay. Well, thank you. That's just trying to clarify a few points. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Peter Harris. I'll go to Councillor Zackley. Any questions to Mr Kitchener?
Yes, Mr Kitchen's the only objector that's actually turned up, so he's the only person I can really respond to, per se, or touched on some of the other points that are raised. I mean, as my colleague has touched on, Mr Kitchen, obviously, as a committee, or a subcommittee, we are bound, obviously, by licensing legislation and licensing framework, and I appreciate that in your objection, you've listed objections under all 4 points of the Licensing Act. I think, looking at the first two, we have to be evidence-based on this. So each, as the legal advisor touched on at the beginning, each application is individual. So we cannot take into account that there are similar premises in the local proximity. So we're just looking at this particular application. And it is difficult, certainly for me, I'm not sure about my colleagues, in regards to the first 2 points, that we have no evidence per se. Understandably, from residents and tenants and such like, there is concern that this could be the case, but at the moment we have no evidence for it. So I want to turn more to the other 2 points you've raised, which are under, where am I again, sorry, I've written on so many pages here. Public safety, which is the third licensing objective, and you've made some points there in regards to obviously congregating outside, people's chance to access through. We've tried to ask questions about door cover, noise limitation and such like, so that's already come out in discussion. I think the other point you've raised is in regards to protection of children from harm, and obviously we're aware that above the premises, which as you rightly say is a jeweller, so is not operated as a cafe yet, there's been no direct noise from below residents living above it. I noticed one of them is a child. So it's things like that we need to look at and see whether or not we have any evidence, or whether we can take any note of what's been said, obviously by the applicant in his description of what he's intending to do, and obviously the concerns that you've raised. So I would thank you for what you've brought to our attention. I think most of it's been relatively answered. The only point I was going to come back on was when you submitted where is it? On your email of the 2nd of June, you listed, and I'll quote it very quickly, if I can find it. I thought we were supposed to live in a paperless environment. Hang on, okay, this is it. Right, where is it? 2nd of June. You've said to the licensing officer that her email is not clear, as it implies that regardless whether a premise is of the correct planning classification, anyone can apply to get a personal license, and running a drinking establishment from any location in town, which makes a mockery of planning applications. Can I just ask from some legal view, do you believe that the response from the licensing officer is acceptable? Obviously, the objector's not particularly happy with it, but as far as we're concerned as an authority, is that deemed an acceptable response?
Well, Mr Kitchens has drawn his conclusions from the response about anyone being able to apply for a personal licence, etc. I mean, the fact is that this is an application for a premises licence, not an application by Mr... I'm sorry, I forgot. Arabetti.
It's actually some Arabetti.
Okay, thank you. In relation to him actually getting a personal licence, so I'm not quite sure what you're asking me.
I'm just asking, do you believe that the officer has been given sufficient clarity in responding to him?
I don't think she has responded, has she? Because this
No,
is his email to...
in her dealings with him, obviously he's written that back, saying that it's not clear. Do you believe the email correspondence between the officer to the objector is clear? You don't think there's no concern that we've not been open, or we've not given sufficient clarity?
I don't know if she has further responded to that email, so I couldn't say, but if she left it at that, then perhaps it would have been helpful to respond and say a little bit more about how the difference between a premises licence holder and an actual application for a premises, and how the licensing authority deal with those applications, and refer him perhaps to the statement of licensing policy and our own application procedures.
And that's what I was seeking to establish, and you've just answered that.
Thank you.
I've got no more questions to you. Thank you for what you've said.
Thank you, Councillor Zachary. I believe Councillor Peter Harris has got some more.
Yeah, it's just on the point that Councillor Zachary just made. I think page 31 in Appendix C probably clarifies it more than anything. Obviously, the planning officer said that we cannot refuse any application for a premises licence if there is no planning permission, and the planning officer has not made a representation but has pointed out the different timings. I think that's sufficient to what Mr Kitchen is getting at, and I think that's a satisfactory response. But obviously, do you feel that's a satisfactory response? I think is what we're getting at.
No, I understand that. Well, I don't agree with that, but it seems that the council does not work in tandem between licensing and planning, and one can get one without the other. All I'm pointing is that Mr. Arabetu does not have the right planning.
Yeah,
I know, and then we're looking at the licensing, so if he's granted a licensing, then it will have to go to enforcement in planning.
I understand the point you're making.
The left hand is doing one thing, and then the right hand is doing the other thing, and then the brain is not coordinated.
Yeah, I totally understand your point. As councillors, it's something that we've discussed many times, and as someone who sat on the planning committee and sat on the licensing committee and sit on two different items, I totally get where you're coming from.
And understand that it's not down to you. This is how the procedure is made. I'm just raising it as...
No, it's a fair comment. Just so that you got do you feel the response was satisfactory?
Yeah.
That's the main thing. As long as we can get past that point. And your comments on planning and licensing, we could have a debate all day, and I don't think we have the time for it. So I'll just move back to Councillor Ashmore, but thank you.
Thanks for that. I've personally got no other questions there, but if I just want to bring in, because I know you've been waiting very patiently there, well, it says ask, but to address the points that you've made, if I bring you in, Mr. Arabeto.
But basically, Mr. Kitchen saying about the kitchen, there is a kitchen fully equipped at the moment, and the price we spent over £35,000. And the chimney extractor there, the reason we used it is not attached to the building So there isn't any vibration to the building. It's away to the staircase of the escape, the staircase. So it's about 2 meters away from the building, the actual extractor fan, which is very, very useful, less noise, less vibration from the actual building. It's not attached direct to the building at all. That's it, which is very good advantage for us to use this extractor fan as it was there. And the other thing, it's Mr. Kitchen, David Kitchen, he doesn't live in the flat. He was worried about all the time about the planning, and he was pointing it to me. I haven't done the planning. It's my brother Sam Arabeto. He's done the planning. So I am here on the licensing for my name, Hakim Arabeto, not Sam Arabeto. And you've got it very he asked me from the beginning, oh, you're not Sam? I said to him, no, I'm Hakim. I'm in the licensing. But my brother Sam Arabeto, he applied for the planning. If you've got any issue, anything about the planning, please take it further, not in this time, not in this place.
Because this is
Thank you.
licensing, yeah, okay. Well, that's not on the order. I'll just ask if the members have got any other comments based on that response that they'd like to say, or if it's, nope. Okay, so if to briefly summarise, if I just ask Ms. Skittery to briefly summarise anything that you feel that you have left to say to us, all based on the responses there.
No, because again, we was touching on planning, which is not to do with this committee. I'm still not satisfied with what he said about safety, whether it's CCTV in staff supervisor, when you try and touch about door stuff and what will happen if there's issues outside, he seems to be a bit confused about what the correct answer is, apart from putting a note saying, please leave politely. As I said, the door is adjacent to his business, which means anybody going in and out of the business, in and out the building, will have to go through a gauntlet of people there standing and smoking and drinking. Again, with the music and the noise, again, I'm not satisfied with what he said about, yes, we've made noise reduction measures, because he hasn't answered anything. So I think it's the same as the dots he put in his application. It's CCTV, and he hasn't explained anything. He hasn't said anything. He hasn't actually told us what he's actually going to do. He gave us a list of beers and food and things like that, but he hasn't actually explained to me how is he going to tackle any of that. But that's down to this committee. It's not down to me.
All right. Thank you. Okay, thanks for those words. I'll also invite Mr. Arabeto to say if you have anything further to add to what you've already said.
Yeah, sure. I mean, there is not going to be any drink outside. It doesn't go in any other premises at all. There is no drink outside at all. So, and the other thing, can I ask why your tenant using the back axis, not the front axis? The front axis, all the other tenants in the flats, 4 flats, they're using the front, which is almost about 2 meters from the shop, the front. Why your tenant particularly using the back axis and slamming the gate, and all the time slamming the gate? Even I stopped her once, long time ago. I said, hey, don't slam the gate, please. But can I ask you why she uses the back gate?
I'm not sure that this really helps.
You know what I mean? There's a front
Chair, if I may, Chair, I don't think this is appropriate now.
Yeah, I think it's gone beyond the application now, hasn't it? I think that's the only thing we need to concentrate on. I think other things might be a personal dispute there. But aside from that, are all parties, including members here, happy that they've had a good say and a fair say?
I'm happy, Chair.
Okay. Mr. Zackley? Councillor Zackley?
Spiffing, yes, fine.
Cool. And
Just more point in regards to the plan, because according to your notes, the plan that's supposed to show details of the kitchen, detail of the safety equipment. This doesn't show anything. So, although he said they spend lots of money on the kitchen, it's not actually showing. And when we go back to safety, as I said, I find it a very lack response to what the safety is there.
It's a fair comment, but I think, again, it goes back to that would be the planning with the siding. And on the footnote on that, it does say it's for layout guidance, not drawn to scale, et cetera, et cetera. So I don't, I think that if I just confirm that would be a planning thing with the size, that would be more of a planning enforcement.
Yeah, we wouldn't normally expect to see such detail in an application for a premises licence. I mean, sometimes we do, sometimes we don't, but I don't think that, that is more for the purposes of the members getting an idea of the layout and the entrances and exits and how it will operate in that respect, not the kitchens and the toilets and all the minutiae.
Okay.
To be fair, though, the plan is a bit vague. There's
Yeah.
not a great deal of detail on it.
HNI in your list of how your plan should be based for premises license.
Fair enough. Okay, well, it comes to now, I think that's the end of the public part of the meeting, isn't it? I think everyone's had their say. So, yep, I think, I'll just bring the public part to a close. It means we'll confer on the matter with the members and legal there, and we'll call you back when we've come to a decision.
Okay, probably about 20 to 4.
20 to 4,
Quarter 5. Quarter 4.
should we say that?
Yeah.
Okay, then we'll say 3:45 then. Obviously, if we haven't finished by then, we'll let you know. But if we say it's 3:45 then, we should have things ready then. Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.